welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, youtube.com/TYTNation. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Got a great show for you guys today. So, very interesting stuff. I'll do a rundown here in a minute, but again, I want to thank you all for tuning in for the next hour as we go around the nation here for some of the best stories and progressive political commentary from around the web, as well as around the nation. Hey, hence the name. Great show today. Fun stuff. As usual, we had a little bit of a debate last night, and that's actually one of the top stories that I want to talk about of the DNC. There is a DNC race going on, so to find out who is the chair, I do have a story on that, something that definitely caught my eye from yesterday. And then there's other stuff. We've got trans protections gone. And weirdly enough, I think I might possibly give a little credit to Betsy DeVos. What in the fuck? Wait till you hear this story on transgender protections. It's great. Then we've got, yes, we do have a Trump story. But trust me, you guys are going to love this one. It is kind of amazing what's going on, of course, in the White House, in the Trump White House. And then we have the question, I'm sure that's on everybody's mind. Where the hell is Kellyanne Conway? Where has she been? I've got the answer to that. And then we do have emails. Do you guys like leaked emails? I love leaked emails. I covered them all during the campaign. Now we've got some emails not leaked, but we do have some emails that do show some collaboration with between the now head of the EPA, Scott Pruitt, with oil companies. So that's fun. We'll go explore some of that. We'll take a look at some of those emails and see what they say, what we can find in their relationship with Scott Pruitt, and of course some of these fossil fuel companies, including one controlled by the Koch brothers. So that's fantastic. So again, we've got a great lineup here today. But before I get going, I do have a couple of announcements. But first, patrons, I want to thank you guys and gals for supporting the show. We appreciate you. I appreciate you here. You're the ones that help keep me going. In fact, we do have a new patron, Caleb Cunningham. Thank you, Caleb, for supporting independent progressive media. You're awesome. I appreciate it and a lot. Now, so the announcement for today is that tomorrow there will not be a live show tomorrow. I know. What's going on is I've got meetings all day tomorrow and stuff that I have to do for the show. So what we'll do here is that we'll have some clips up tomorrow. Don't worry, I'll have some stuff ahead of time for you guys. So you can go to the channel, you can check out the clips and stuff tomorrow. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule, but at least one day every month, I got to take a Friday because I've got these meetings and stuff to do. So that sucks, but I definitely will still have some content for you guys to come back to and watch, because there's too many stories to not do content. Now, since we are off tomorrow, we'll not have a live show. I will take some calls later on in the hour. So I don't want to miss the whole call segment that we have. So remember, 989-796-4975. If you have a comment or a question throughout the show, I will take calls. So in between segments today. So if I end a segment and you decide, hey, I want to call in and ask a question, we can do that. So again, I encourage you guys to call in with your questions. TYT Nation on Skype or 796-4975. So there's the number you can get a hold of me at. And you can also tweet us at TYT Nation as well. And I haven't really been doing a great job at that, at checking those tweets. But I've got it up now. So again, you can tweet me, get a hold of me on the Twitter machine that way. All right. So anyway, let's do the my second favorite story of the day. We'll start out because I really think this is important. I really like this. Let's talk about the DNC. Now, last night, CNN hosted a debate between some of the different contenders vying for control of the DNC. There will be an election soon about who's going to chair the DNC going forward, the Democratic National Commission. Now, Sam Ronan is actually right now a little known but very strong progressive who's running for that position. And so when CNN had this debate last night, Sam Ronan was there, and what I want to show you in this next video is Ronan addressing one of the reasons. Basically, he's going to address a lack of trust between the progressives and the DNC. Let's take a look at that now.
Was it rigged or not?
Thank you. I was going to interrupt anyway. The point is, not only was the primary rigged, it was also rigged all across the country because the DNC has never allowed outsiders or brand new people to rise through the ranks. It has always been an insider game, and it has been that way for a very, very long time. That is where that lack of trust has come into play, because not only was Bernie Sanders snubbed, not only did it look like Hillary Clinton had bought or muscled her way into it, then those supporters were denied a chance to speak at the convention, and that was the final straw. If people don't have a voice, an equitable voice, like I alluded to earlier, then people are not going to trust the system, and they are going to go out of their way to break it.
They're going to go out of their way to break that system. He's absolutely right. He fucking nails it, actually. Now, what he said about the DNC running a insider's game for corporate Democrats is also 100% true. And look, only in the face of such an embarrassing loss to Donald Trump, and yes, look, I know she won by 3 million votes, but lost in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, where President Obama, when he was running, picked up wins. So there was no reason that she should have lost that. And not only that, but she lost to a clown like Donald Trump. That itself is incredibly embarrassing on its own. And another reason they lost is because, look, they ignored progressives. They ignored the working class. She didn't campaign in some of those areas, for example, Wisconsin, Michigan. And activists, they kept telling her, dude, you've got to come here. There are people that are willing to work for you. There are people that are willing to get out your message. You got to come here. You got to help us set up these events and give us some funding so we can go out, so we can canvass for you. No. We're not worried about Michigan. The polls, our models say it's going to work out 100% completely fine in our favor, despite the fact that the polls were wrong in Michigan when she was running against Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders won, and he wasn't expected to. So, again, they had learned nothing from the primary campaign. And so that led, of course, to her embarrassing loss against Donald Trump. And, again, a part of that is she didn't excite people or put forward some sort of or any sort of progressive vision. There were so many different reasons why she lost. And speaking of the polls, of course, they were wrong because they didn't count. They only counted likely voters and not new energized voters. The new energized voters are the type of people that came out for Donald Trump and during the primary came out for Bernie Sanders. And see, this is what happens when you play an insider's game. As Ronan had correctly pointed out, there was nothing that he said that was wrong, that was incorrect. In fact, he says it the way it is. And look, the DNC, they've got to realize that they need us. They need progressives. And look, to do that, I think if you want to really start to try to heal the party, the first thing they need to do is admit that, yes, we did rig it in favor of Hillary Clinton. We did put our thumb on the scale. We put Debbie Wasserman Schultz on the scale, along with Donna Brazile, who was passing questions from CNN to Hillary Clinton's camp. Come on. She got caught doing it too. They've got to go out and admit this. Yes, we did screw over Bernie Sanders. We screwed over progressives. Because look, it's not just about Sanders himself, right? It's about the whole entire progressive movement. They did everything they can in the DNC to crush that, to stifle progressives. We don't want you to be a part of this. We don't need you. We don't need progressives. Well, look where that got you. Look where that got you. You needed progressives But you said you sent us packing. You sent us out the door. And now look what happened. And look, later on, they had the gall to try to ask for our support. And even though what the DNC had did to us, there were still a lot of progressives that picked up and said, you know what? We're going to swallow our pride. We're going to put aside what you did to us, and we're going to fight like hell to prevent a Donald Trump presidency. There were a lot of progressives that did that, and some that didn't, and I definitely completely understand why. They did everything they could to try to fight against Donald Trump, only to later on, when the establishment lost, get blamed by that same establishment. That's on you guys. The establishment, that's on you. It's not progressives that let Hillary lose. It was Hillary that let Hillary lose. Now, what Ronan also says is really, really important, because this is how we get back. This is how the progressives, and again, there are a lot who are not going to go back under any circumstance. And again, I understand. But I think a lot of progressives are asking for this. He said, if people don't have a voice in the system, that they're not going to trust the system, and they're going to go out of their way to break it. And see, that's what we're seeing. Not with Trump. Trump not breaking the system. He is the system. He's fine with the system. He loves the system. But we're seeing that inside of the Democratic Party right now. We're seeing people that haven't had a voice pushing back and saying, you know what? Now we do have a voice. And now we're coming for you. And look, this is a good thing. Progressives are starting to have a voice in the party. And look, while the corporate wing is going to continue to fight against that, they are going to lose. You've got groups out there like Justice Democrats. You have the threat of primary challenges in places like Missouri for Claire McCaskill. And look, whatever happens in this DNC race, progressives are going to have an impact. And look, it will decide, this race is important because it will decide what direction this goes. And right now, Keith Ellison is a favorite. Now, I like Keith Ellison, but I also really like what Ronan has to say. And I'd be okay with supporting either of them. Even if I believe that Ellison isn't perfect, he's still more progressive on the issues. And of course, I think Ronan would also do an amazing job. So, now if it goes to Tom Perez, however, since he is the establishment pick, well, we're essentially going to see the same result. Because the same forces that push Hillary down our throats, well, they're trying to do the same for Tom Perez. And that is not going to fly with progressives. Now, I hope, for the sake of the party, I hope they don't do that. Because if that happens, the Democrats, without the help of progressives, they will never win another election. And I can almost guarantee that. Okay. So now let's switch over to what did Trump do? He went after the trans people. That's what he went. The Trump administration has recently signaled that it will roll back protections for transgender students. Now, these protections were guidelines put in by the Obama administration. And essentially what they would do is that they required public schools to allow kids to use the bathrooms and other facilities that correspond to their gender identity. So if you're a transgender male, you can use the men's room. If you're a transgender female, you can use the ladies' room. Now, of course, Republicans don't like that ruling. In fact, they despise that ruling. Some of them claim that, of course, pervy guys, well, they'll either dress up as women to sexually assault women, or they're just really bad people. They're just predators that are there to target young women. In fact, there was one person who was very outspoken about this that recently got a lot of attention saying that. And then, oops, he was found talking about pedophilia and being okay with it. And then, of course, had to step down to his position, lost a book deal. You probably already know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say his name. Now, what's interesting about this is that this whole situation, I might possibly give a tiny bit of credit to Betsy DeVos. Whoa. Who saw that one coming? I'm pretty sure you didn't. Let me explain. According to the New York Times, Betsy DeVos is actually a supporter of gay rights. And when the Trump administration wanted to move forward with this order, she actually sort of pushed back. She felt very uncomfortable. In fact, here's a quote from the New York Times. Ms. DeVos initially resisted signing off on the order and told President Trump that she was uncomfortable with it. And this is according to 3 Republicans with direct knowledge of these internal discussions. Now, it also says that Mr. Sessions, who strongly opposes expanding gay, lesbian, and transgender rights, fought Mrs. DeVos on this issue and pressed her to relent because he could not go forward without her consent. Mr. Trump, however, sided with his attorney general, according to these Republicans, telling Ms. DeVos in a meeting in the Oval Office that he wanted her to drop her objections. And Ms. DeVos, faced with the order, the choice of resigning or defying the president, had agreed to go along. Now, Politico had corroborated the New York Times story, and according to a Republican source, DeVos was at least wanting to move more deliberately to handle the issue. Now, they said, what I have heard is Secretary DeVos's preference would have been to have a notice of comment period on this rather than just rescinding the policy effective immediately. Another source close to the discussions opposed rescinding, said DeVos opposed rescinding the directive altogether, preferring to keep the protections in place. Very, very interesting. Ultimately, as you've noticed, Trump decided to side with Sessions, and DeVos agreed to go along. However, again, she persuaded the administration to include language requiring schools to crack down on bullying of transgender students. Now, look, out of all of this, despite them all being rather bad guys, you actually have Betsy DeVos looking better than the rest of the administration, despite her, of course, ultimately bowing her head and knowing her place. After all, this is a woman that spent $200 million on her seat. She's not giving that up. If she actually had, and to really get my credit, she would actually have to defy Trump and say, no, I'm not going to go along with this. This is ridiculous. And, you know, if she had gotten fired or whatever, hey, man, that's a win-win. I get to give her credit for standing up for principles, and we get rid of Betsy DeVos. That would have been awesome. But unfortunately, that didn't turn out that way. And now, unfortunately, there's a lot of transgender people that are going to lose their protections that they desperately need. But here's the real, well, I guess here's the other surprise, other than Betsy DeVos not being a bigot. Trump. Now, wait a minute. I thought Trump was okay with transgender people using whatever bathroom they identified with. I mean, isn't he the guy that is going to come out and say, I am the least transphobic person ever? In fact, he was so non-transphobic that he was okay with Caitlyn Jenner using whatever bathroom she wanted to use if she came to Trump Tower. Isn't that what he said? Oh, yeah, I'd be cool with Caitlyn Jenner. Yeah, use whatever bathroom. I don't care. Obviously, though, in office, he doesn't seem like that. He's really that big a fan on transgender protections. But look, maybe it's because, and I know I'm maybe stretching here to try to give him some sort of benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't understand what these transgender things mean, right? He doesn't read policy papers. He gets his news from Fox. So he probably is like, I don't know, but transgender protection, why do they need extra rights? Fox tells me that's extra rights that they don't need. Well, they're already protected. No, they're not. They're not already protected. And look, I doubt he even understands what transgender people go through. I mean, I don't understand, but at least I have empathy. And at least I have the facts. And I also believe that you shouldn't use the power of big government to take away protections that were placed on the local level. Remember, this whole thing started because there were certain cities that were saying, we would like to pass these laws to defend transgender people. And there are religious nut jobs in conservatives that are like, no, you can't do that. We need to have big government step in and stop you from protecting transgender people. And Jeff Sessions is more than happy to go after them. Now, again, this is to try to protect transgender people. Now, conservatives, they'll come out and tell you, they're like, but they don't need protection. Well, did you know that there are different numerous studies that reveal that approximately half of all transgender people experience sexual violence at some point in their lifetime. Half. But no, we got to protect the people from the transgenders. Because there's that, again, not saying his name, but there are people out there that go and spout things like, oh, they're the predators. They're actually the predators. They're the ones that are going into these bathrooms and could assault young women and girls and all that. Well, again, these people are actually more often to be preyed upon, especially if they're forced to use a bathroom that does not correspond with their sexual identity. And look, those are the facts. And to roll back these protections is to essentially tell the transgender community that, hey, this is administration. We don't care about you. We don't care. We don't want to protect you. And actually, you're the problem. And we need to protect people from you. That's the message that this sends. And of course, that is just not the reality. Okay. Here we go. So this one's actually my favorite story of the day. You guys probably won't agree, but this is fun. Now, it's about Trump, of course. Aides and staffers in the White House have been having a rather difficult time controlling Donald Trump. His impulse to tweet and, of course, to watch lots of cable TV. So much so that campaign staffers, or former campaign staffers, have stepped in to offer a little bit of advice to the White House. Now, these people spoke to Politico, and there are about 6 former campaign officials. Now, they said that in order to control Trump, he needs to essentially be micromanaged and kept away from bad press. They also say that it's one of the things that they can do to keep the president from going out and tweeting out terrible things. Interesting. Now, they said, quote, the key to keeping Trump's Twitter habit under control is to ensure that his personal media consumption includes a steady stream of praise. And when no such praise was to be found, staff would turn to friendly outlets to drum some up and make sure it made its way to Trump's desk. Basically, we have to make sure that there's a steady stream of praise for little Donnie, or else he's going to go on Twitter and he's going to have a tantrum, and that's going to make us look bad. Oh, what a child. Child. There's more. If candidate Trump was upset about unfair coverage, it was productive to show him that he was getting fair coverage from outlets that were persuadable, said former communications director Sam Nunberg. The same media that our base digests and prefers is going to be the base of his support. I would assume the president would like to see positive and preferential treatment from those outlets, and that would help the operation overall. So what outlets do they actually mean? Well, a former senior campaign official said Nunberg's and his successor, former communications director Jason Miller, were particularly skilled at using alternative media, like Breitbart, Washington Examiner, InfoWars, and the Daily Caller to show Trump positive coverage. So that's what they're saying. Hey, during the campaign, we made sure that we planted stories in these different media outlets that are friendly towards you, and then we can show them to you later in places like InfoWars. Hey, Donald, check this out. InfoWars just ran a great story on you. Alex Jones, man, he loves you. Oh, what's that headline about lizard people? Don't worry about that. Just ignore that. But what if I want to read about the lizard people? No. Just ignore that. Let me just point out how disastrous it is that our president listens to somebody like Alex Jones. And look, Jones, in a recent article, I don't know if this is true or not, but Jones claims to regularly talk to President Trump on the phone. This is a guy that believes that aliens have aligned with the devil to attack humanity. We are under attack.
It is an alien force, not of this world.
That's what he believes, man. It's an alien.
It's not human intelligence.
It's not. It can't be. It's the aliens, and it's also...
It's the devil, okay?
It's the devil. So this is a guy that Donald Trump listens to. Disaster. Absolute disaster. Now, however, what's more interesting about his media habits is what he doesn't go through. In fact, he rarely goes online for information. Now, Alex Jones is primarily online, but he'll watch a program, or actually he'll get this program delivered to him, but mostly he does not go online for his news. In fact, staff members say that they had one advantage as they aim to manage candidate Trump's media diet. Again, he rarely reads anything online, instead preferring print newspapers. You know what his go-to is? The failing New York Times. This guy loves reading the New York Times. I love it. He can't help himself. Failing New York Times. They're garbage. Fake news. Hey, what's the New York Times saying about me? Come on, man. And do you really think that if the New York Times did a positive story on Trump, that he wouldn't suddenly start loving them again? Like, oh, New York Times, great article, man, great. You know what? Times, not failing anymore. They're tremendous. And look, again, other than the New York Times, he doesn't really read a whole lot. Because some have speculated he has a little bit of trouble reading. I don't know about that. But, hey, David Pakman makes a very compelling case on Trump not being able to read. You should check out that video. No, instead, he chooses to watch cable news. In fact, according to the article, Trump is a, quote, near nonstop consumer of cable news. And they also note that his staff's efforts were not enough to always keep Trump from tweeting on topics that were far away from his campaign's core message. In fact, throughout the campaign, the Times writes, whatever messaging the candidate staff had planned was continuously accompanied and often overshadowed by a string of feuds that played out both on and off Twitter. But his team ultimately believed that his strategies would keep Trump from taking to his preferred social media outlet to escalate his personal and political conflicts. Now, again, they spoke of a strategy, right? What strategy? I mentioned it earlier, planting stories in supposed friendly media. Now, for example, when Trump engaged in a Twitter war with Khizr Khan, the father of, obviously, Captain Khan, who was killed in Iraq, the team set up a meeting with Gold Star Mothers of Florida and made sure to plant the story in conservative media. Breitbart also wrote stories about Khan's relationship with the Democratic Party. We made sure that conservative media was aware of it. They connected the echo chamber, a former official said. They connected the echo chamber. You got to make sure to ramp up that echo chamber, man. That's what they're doing. Now, another example. During another damage control mission, when former Miss Universe Alicia Machado took to the airwaves to call out Trump for calling her Miss Piggy and Miss Housekeeping, the communications team for Trump scrambled to place the story in conservative-friendly outlets like Fox News, The Washington Examiner, Daily Caller, and Breitbart. Now, I'm going to stop here for a minute. Weren't people angry when Hillary's team would plant stories in friendly media, like the Washington Post, for example, like the Huffington Post, like Politico? I know I was pissed. I was like, no, you're planting friendly stories, and then you're doing stories against Bernie Sanders. Remember Washington Post with their 16 negative articles on Bernie Sanders in 16 hours. That is a fucking record. So, look, if you're angry at the Hillary Clinton campaign doing that, but are not angry at Donald Trump's team doing the same exact thing, you might want to check yourself. Okay? I'm just saying, media collusion is media collusion. Doesn't matter who's doing it. When you have political campaigns and political parties colluding with the media, getting talking points, planting friendly stories, sometimes even false stories in the news, that is a problem. They use the media, in this case, conservative media, to help Donald Trump. Look, it's grotesque. It's grotesque when they did it for Hillary Clinton. It's grotesque when they do it for Donald Trump. Now, what would they do when the stories were published in these friendly conservative media outlets? Well, campaign officials with large numbers of Twitter followers would end up tweeting them out because, of course, that would get Donald Trump's attention. They would also go to media amplifiers like Fox News hosts and conservative columnists to encourage them to tweet out the story so they could print out and show a 2-page list of tweets that showed that they were steering the message. hey, look, Donald, here is a list of very friendly tweets. Look at that. These people really like what you're doing. These people really like what you're saying, except that we set them up to do it. That's exactly what you're doing. They're refeeding his ego. They were feeding him with positive stories that they planted. This is insanity. And look, did it have success? Somewhat. They note that while Trump still couldn't contain his Twitter rage with Machado, ended up tweeting out about a mystery sex tape of the Hillary Clinton surrogate, aides say that they were successful in dialing back even more posts. Quote, he saw there was activity, so he didn't feel like he had to respond. According to the former campaign official, he sends out these tweets when he feels like people aren't responding enough for him. And to that I have to say, what a snowflake. This guy's snowflake president. No, I've got to, you know what? We've got to make sure that he's got positive press. We've got to make sure that people are responding to him, and it's got to be positive, or else he gets very, very angry. He's got to have consistent praise. In fact, one Trump associate said it's very important to show Trump deference and offer him praise and respect. And that will, of course, lead him to more often listen to that person who is giving him that respect. So basically, what they're saying is that you got to stroke his ego, and maybe something else. You might, I don't know. I don't want to go there. But look, essentially, this guy is a narcissistic man-child. And just like a child, these same associates said that if Trump becomes obsessed with a grudge, the aides need to try and distract him and change the subject. Hey, Donald, look at your poll. You know what? Maybe not look at your poll numbers. Hey, Donald, why don't you look at what Hannity said about you last night? Hey, Hannity said stuff about me? Oh, that's interesting. And not only that, again, just like a child, these aides say, quote, leaving him alone for several hours can prove damaging. Why? Because he consumes too much television and gripes to people outside the White House. Let me ask you guys, is this a profile of a successful businessman or a 70-year-old spoiled rich kid? Remember, this is a guy that got handed everything in life. Got bailed out by his daddy after running casinos. Who crashes a casino? The house always wins. The house is supposed to win. But no, this guy's so much of a fool, so much of a bumbling idiot that he crashed casinos into the ground. Ridiculous, man. And you've got aides saying that we cannot leave him alone because he's going to go and do something ridiculous. He's going to start a terrible Twitter war with people, and who knows what else he's going to do. We can't leave this guy alone for 5 minutes, and we have to constantly praise him. My God, man, this is a circus. America, what have you done? What have you done? We've elected a toddler to the most powerful position in the United States. Baby, sad. Oh. Oh my God. It'd be hilarious if it weren't so just disastrous. All right. Anyway, let's talk about Kellyanne Conway. We haven't talked to her for a while. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we got her. The White House has reportedly banned Kellyanne Conway from TV, from doing more television appearances. Now, this is interesting. Now, CNN is reporting that the reason that she is no longer out there on television, according to White House officials, is that she had been caught contradicting the administration too many times. The last one, of course, on Michael Flynn. Now, they said that Conway, who was recently a regular fixture on TV news, hasn't appeared for an on-air interview since early last week. That Monday, she argued that then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn had the full confidence of President Trump. And, of course, the day afterwards, Michael Flynn resigned. Internal pressure. Oops. Now, because of that whole thing, a White House source told CNN that Conway is no longer on TV because she was end up being off message. And so that's why we haven't seen her around. Now, I, of course, don't necessarily buy that. I think there's a slightly different reason. And it's not so much being off message. However, I do believe that she embarrassed the hell out of the Trump administration. Now, remember, this guy watches cable television religiously. So if she looks bad and the media starts putting a whole lot of bad stories out about her, which has happened plenty of times, for example, citing the Bowling Green massacre that never actually happened, well, the news will focus on that. They'll talk about that instead of any of the possible goods that the Trump administration has done or any of the other stuff that she's talked about. That infuriates Trump. They can't stand it. He can't stand being made out to look like an idiot. Because again, he said this before about Sean Spicer, my staff reflects on me. And so when you have somebody out there that goes out and talks about alternative facts, it kind of makes you look bad. So there goes Kellyanne. Now, one source close to the White House had actually expressed some relief by people inside the Trump administration. And they said, there's been fewer controversies since Conway's absence. Quote, clearly they're having such much more of a drama-free week. CNN quoted the sources saying, having Kellyanne off television is actually helping them. Interesting. Now, of course, the White House is going to come out. Sean Spicer and another spokesman, of course, Deputy White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, actually denied this. No, we didn't get rid of Kellyanne Conway. We haven't banned her from TV. No. In fact, she's got all sorts of media appearances on radio shows. Well, it's not like going on CNN or any of these other media outlets. Yes, it is radio. It's a media, media appearance. But it's not quite the same as the cable circuit that Donald Trump watches religiously. And there's the difference. Sure, they might be setting Kellyanne Conway out to different media outlets, but it's not ones Trump pays attention to. So she can say whatever she wants, and it's not going to come back on him. Remember, he wants people out there that make him look good. He's the kind of guy that is almost like Roger Ailes, who would watch television with the sound off just to take a look at the visuals. Now, that's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, again, this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, Kellyanne has a number of media appearances and also has a large portfolio at the White House and is spending significant time focusing on it. So, no, we have not banned her from media. No, she's just really, really busy not being on the top-rated cable shows. Let's not do that. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I think it's bullshit. But that's just my opinion. Now, of course, my opinion as well on this whole thing, and I've made it very, very clear over some of the last Kellyanne Conway videos, is that if she doesn't know what she's talking about, which she clearly does not, she should not be on cable television at all. In fact, I hope she never ends up back on cable television. But that might not be what happens. One source was quoted as saying, look, Kellyanne Conway, she'll be back, don't worry. But right now, they're just letting the heat cool off. So basically, let's hide Kellyanne Conway until Trump is distracted by something else. So squirrel. So he's not paying attention. And so he's no longer mad at her for making him look dumb or dumber. That's my read of the situation. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm true. If I'm right or not. But that's my read. Kellyanne Conway is a demonstrable liar. And what I think the media should do is that they should not let her back on the air, even if she comes back. Even if she calls up CNN, hey, I'm interested in coming on the show. Sorry, Kellyanne. Nope. Not happening. You are not coming back on the show. We're not letting you on these networks because, again, you're a complete liar. And we can't have that clogging up our airways. However, there is that danger that these networks might go, you know what? These ratings, they're pretty good. Okay, Kellyanne, come on back. Kellyanne. And, you know, if they do that, if they do let her back on air, even after all the stuff the patently untrue stuff that she has said, then the media truly has no hope. Let's hope they do the right thing and keep Kellyanne off the air. Okay. Got one more story here for you guys. We've got emails. You guys like emails, don't you? We all like emails. All right. So these are actually also really important. So. Now, Scott Pruitt is the new head of the Environmental Protection Agency. And look, here I always kind of figured that he was a shill of the fossil fuel industry. I mean, it seems pretty clear. He's gotten a lot of money from fossil fuel, and he's represented them quite a bit when he was the Attorney General of Oklahoma. And now we do have some proof of that in the form of emails. In fact, the Center for Media and Democracy had recently released a new batch of emails just a day after Pruitt's former office turned them over to a state court in Oklahoma. Now, that's of course interesting because it came just a few days after he was confirmed as head of the EPA. Well, wonder what he was hiding. Well, actually, we know what he was hiding. And of course, it's massive ties, massive conflicts of interest with the fossil fuel industry. Now, the group said it received over 7,000 pages of emails from Pruitt's office. So look, there's a lot of emails to go through. We don't know the extent, but here are some of the ones that came to the top. And again, thousands of emails to go through. Now, some of them show coordination between Pruitt and some of the oil and gas companies, not only inside of Oklahoma, but also with the conservative groups, different conservative groups, and the Koch brothers network. Now, one of the most frequent emailers is Devon Energy. So let me give you an example of one of the interactions between lobbyists from Devon and Pruitt's office. Now, in 2013, Devon's company lobbyist, a man named Bill Whitsitt, had contacted Pruitt's office to say that he had told him about a forthcoming BLM rule on hydraulic fracturing, something that, of course, they're doing a lot in Oklahoma. Now, he wrote, "We'll see the new proposal sometimes next week, and I believe we'll be back in touch on potential next steps." Now, the company in Pruitt's office in March emailed about how to offer a formal comment on this proposed rule. Whitsitt provided the office with a draft letter on the rule that he said, quote, could be the basis for a meeting or a call with federal officials. So basically what you have here is that you have a lobbyist from one of these fossil fuel companies, Devon Energy, saying, oh, look, I've got this draft letter, I've got this template that we can use. All we do is that we fill it out for you, you sign your name, and then you can send it off to the EPA. So you can talk to federal officials so that we can eliminate these rules on fracking or make sure that we don't have any extra regulations on fracking. That's interesting. Now, days later, Pruitt's chief of staff sent Whitsitt a copy of a letter about the matter, saying, quote, thank you for your assistance on this important matter. So basically, thank you for filling out this letter for me and then sending it on. Wow. Now, again, this is while Pruitt was the Attorney General of Oklahoma. He was actually supposed to be representing the best interests of people in Oklahoma. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but again, they've been doing a lot of fracking in Oklahoma. They've been having a lot of earthquakes, and they've been having a lot of people who end up with their water poisoned thanks to fracking. But here's Pruitt representing the oil companies, the natural gas companies. So this is what we have here. Now, again, what he did wasn't illegal by any means, still super shady and still wrong, in my opinion. Now, here's another email chain. Now, in June 2013, Clayton Eubanks, who was then Pruitt's Deputy Solicitor General, asked the same lobbyist, Whitsitt, for suggested edits to a letter Pruitt and other Republican attorneys general were planning to send to the EPA to advocate against regulating methane leaks from oil and gas drilling. We cannot have them regulate these this gas, this very potent greenhouse gas. Now, again, here is a lobbyist basically saying, hey, we've got input here that we want to put in into this draft rule. Here's another example. Next month, Eubanks emailed a Devon employee to follow up on an earlier conversation about a rule on fracking on federal land. The company had reviewed a letter Pruitt was preparing on the rule and suggested that he include footnotes, something that final letter later included. So again, company lobbyists putting in footnotes into official government letters to the EPA, or just writing the whole thing for them and saying, here you go, now you can send it to the EPA. This is what we want. This is our list of things that we want you to do. Here you go. Now, be a good little lapdog and send it on for me. In fact, Devon's Policy and Government Relations Director, Brent Rockwood, after this, wrote, "Thanks for putting the AG letter into action. I think that this letter will make a strong statement and a real difference. Thanks for using our letter that we got to edit, put footnotes in that will help you deregulate our industry and help us make a buck. Good boy. Now we can give you your campaign bribes." Because again, he took lots and lots of money in campaign donations to win that seat as Attorney General. Now, not only that, but the emails also referenced meetings and calls between Pruitt and his staffers and other oil groups. In fact, Pruitt's office worked with the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers Industry Group on the EPA's renewable fuel standards. And of course, that has to do with standards that were put on ethanol. So, and whether or not you agree with ethanol is one thing. But again, we're talking about lobbyists essentially taking control and sending on their model bills. So, now, in July 2013, after a phone conversation, AFPM's General Counsel Richard Moskowitz told Eubanks that his group would file a waiver request under the law later that month. He urged Oklahoma to file a separate waiver petition that emphasizes severe environmental harm, which again doesn't exist, as this argument, he says, is more credible coming from a state. Eubanks told Moskowitz, quote, "I think it is safe to say that AG Pruitt has an interest in this issue. A monetary interest." That fall, of course, Pruitt released a statement calling this program, quote, unworkable. And by the way, now that Pruitt is head of the EPA, he now has control of these ethanol standards, so he can change them at will. And this is what we have going on in government. Not only that, but as I mentioned earlier, Pruitt, according to these records, has a close relationship with the Koch brothers' political network. In fact, I want to read you an email here. This is from Matt Ball, Oklahoma head at the Koch-funded Americans for Prosperity, wrote in August of 2013, quote, "Thank you for your respective bosses and all they are doing to push back against President Obama's EPA and its axis with liberal environmental groups to increase energy costs for Oklahomans and American families across the states. You both work for true champions of freedom and liberty." Freedom for what, man? Oh, for the corporations to be able to dump coal ash into your rivers, which the Trump administration, by the way, recently made legal. They rolled back a rule, an Obama-era rule, saying, hey, coal companies, you can't dump into the river your sludge. Now they can do that whenever they want. It's legal now. And we have to clean it up. They don't have to clean up. We have to clean it up. And we have to deal with it. Now, not only that, but you've got, what? Again, freedom and liberty, right? Well, what's the liberty part? What's the liberty for these corporations to pollute the air and the water? That's what it is. Look, this whole thing isn't about reducing energy costs, as they would like to tell you. No, what this is about getting an extra buck by being able to pollute without the government, without the EPA getting in the way. These are the people that supported Scott Pruitt. And Scott Pruitt, again, now runs the EPA. And that's not even the half of it, man. Ball frequently coordinated with Pruitt's office on things like messaging, according to the records. For example, in advance of an event his group hosted, he had worked with Pruitt's aides to craft different talking points for the attorney's general presentation. Again, this is a Koch brothers lobbyist that is essentially drafting talking points for a sitting attorney general. These oil companies were running the state of Oklahoma, or at least running the attorney general's office. And now they're running the EPA. And what they would do is, again, draft policy papers that would, and different letters, and all Pruitt would have to do is sign his name and send them out as a representative of the state of Oklahoma. He wasn't representing Oklahoma. I think we all know that by now. He was representing the oil companies. And again, now this guy's running the EPA. Do you think he's actually going to represent the environment? You think he's going to protect the environment? It is the Environmental Protection Agency. They're not going to do much protecting, let me tell you that. They're going to protect the oil companies because that's who paid these guys. That's who paid Scott Pruitt. He's bought, man. His entire mission is to destroy the EPA and allow the polluters to run amok. This is what we have. Coal ash in your rivers? Perfectly okay. More methane in the atmosphere? Who gives a fuck? Also, that my donors in the fossil fuel industry can save an extra $1. This is what our government's come to. It's grotesque. It is sickening that this is what's going on. Absolutely sickening. But, all right. That's all I got for you guys. If you want to call in, 989-796-4975. That's the phone number. We got about almost 10 minutes or so, so we'll take a couple of calls here. So feel free. Call in, 796-4975. I'm a check tweeter here. All right, not really anything going on. You can tweet me at TYT Nation as well. And do that. Again, there were so many things that I wanted to talk about today, and not a lot of time to get them all together, all prepared. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed some of the stories that I brought to you today. And if you have any suggestions, make sure to send them. You can tweet me. You can, Facebook me, whatever, at TYT Nation. You can do that. So, and of course, you can give me a call, 989-796-4975. So, feel free. Feel free. Now, let's see. Let me look up. Let me see what I was gonna. Some other things that I wanted to talk about as well that I didn't quite get to for today's show. Standing Rock. So, what's going on at Standing Rock? And I've been seeing that they've essentially been cleared out by military police, militarized police, forcing these people out of the Standing Rock. Disaster. I mean, yes, we knew that Donald Trump was going to try and do this pipeline. We knew it. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. And yet, the Army Corps of Engineers still hasn't done its proper environmental review. And that's what the whole thing. They were fighting to say that, look, this environmental review, we really wanted you to do it. You were actually you were supposed to do this review before you do any sort of drilling. But of course, the oil police and the people that control this this whole thing are going ahead with it anyway. Drilling into Native American lands, lands that have not been ceded to the United States, that are still Native American land. And they're drilling this pipeline. They're building this pipeline. And they should not be. So, an absolute disaster what's going on in Standing Rock. Again, I don't even know all the entire details of what's going on, because there's just been a lot in the last few hours. Maybe I'll do a story on that tomorrow as well, when I do some prepared stuff. So, again, a lot of terrible things happening here. And do I even have Skype up? That's a weird thing to say. No, I don't. Oh, no wonder I haven't been getting any calls. Fail. All right. Let me hold on for a second here. Let me bring that up. Anybody who's been trying to call in, I'm so sorry. I did not notice that I had to shut it down earlier. But it should be back up, 989-796-4975. My bad. So, anyway. Again, with Standing Rock, what's going on is just a tragedy of the greatest order. And so, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what we can do. But there is, there are still people, as you guys mentioned in the chat, there are still people over in another camp. That's good. They're going to continue to fight. They're going to continue to do their thing and continue to fight against this pipeline. And they've got our full support. So, there's that. All right. Let me see here. So I'm gonna say goodbye to FYI Nation here. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome. We'll catch you again on Monday. So there's that. Again, 989-796-4975. So it's your last chance, and I'll be out tomorrow. But again, we will have content for you. We'll have some videos up. Some stories. I'm going to get some stuff up in advance so that it gets released tomorrow at the normal time. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our channel. There's a subscribe button somewhere, so you might want to check that out. If you haven't already, please like and share our videos as well, and continue following us on social media. You've got Twitter at TYTNation. You've got Facebook, facebook.com/TYTNation. And of course, I don't think I'm on any other social media, but okay. Anyway, no calls today. That's weird, but all right. We'll have to do this, of course, next Friday. And again, thank you guys for tuning in, for going around the nation with me today. And of course, for giving your feedback and participating in the chat. I really, really appreciate it. All right. I'm out of here for the day. Thank you all again. We'll see you Monday. And remember, I love you guys, and change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.